this will kill everyone in this room. I ran it at 90% power to cut eighth inch because I like had literally no idea.
Welcome back to the Riley Black Project with Crystal and John.
Hey.
What's going on?
Everything and nothing all at the same time.
Yep.
So
The
we
first
got
of the month.
it is the first of the month.
Wake up, it's the first of the month.
So we got our shout outs. Yes, I'm still sick. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you ready?
No.
Okay.
Never ready.
Here we go.
Melissa, Camille, Lisa, David, Alexander. That always throws me off. I need to just cross it out. His name is Alex. Stephanie, Kayla, Barbie, Madison, Danny, Catherine, Emily, Amanda, Keith, Mark, Kathy, MJ, Ryan, and Will. But there's 2 people on that list who recently upgraded their patron contributions each month.
Well, thank you.
So they went from big spendas, which is $12 a month, to show offs.
Oh, they want to show off.
$25 a month. Yeah.
Oh, well, we appreciate you showing off.
Danny, special thanks to Danny McManus and Mark Collier, which is funny because we're going to talk about him a little bit on our episode with my friend.
Okay.
Because, she has kind of a connection.
All right, cool. And while we're doing shouts, I want to shout out to our sponsor, of course. My mom's calling in the middle of the
when you need the note.
You know what I'm saying? Of course she would call. But shout out to our sponsors.
Yes.
Eon USA, Lens Digital, and
Crazy Laser Dad.
Will. Yeah. And so there's one more, but there's an ad coming.
Get us your scripts, guys, so we can give you like a real ad because you paid for one.
Like the one coming up.
Yeah.
Maybe right now.
Right. Who knows?
Depends
on where you decide to put it.
Speaking of all things laser, check out Houston Acrylic at houstonacrylic.com for reliable laser tested and laser approved materials.
Made for makers by makers, Houston Acrylic features over 450 styles of acrylic sheets. With over 50 new arrivals being released this month, Houston Acrylic is committed to bringing new and innovative styles to the laser community. My personal favorite is the matte, anything matte, and I feel it's perfect for everything.
Don't forget to save 10% by using our exclusive coupon code TRBP10 at checkout. Get inspired today and visit houstonacrylic.com.
Do it. A little quick side note on the Patreon before we introduce our guest is I added a yearly option. And I believe you get 10% off or 15. I don't remember. But you get a discount if you sign up for a yearly patronage.
Right. So save some money. Sign up for the year.
Yeah, go sign up. Give us dollars.
All right, we got? Well, on with our guest, Lauren with Barley and Oak.
Hi.
How you going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Doing the best we can.
The
feeling. Right. So, Lauren, I actually.
There it is. She actually coughs.
Yeah, all of
it's not just props on the show. She really does it in real life. It's not just for the show.
So I came across her Instagram just because, it's like either they suggested her or someone else like share I don't know.
Little tickle.
Yeah. When I like suck in, I sound like a muffler or something. See that? What is that? Anyway, so I really related to her content. So she talked a lot about anxiety. She talked about the days where she was like struggling to get started, where like she's really tired, that like just real and like present about like the things that, we talk about. And there was one day where she mentioned, she was like really busy with orders, and she was talking about how she hated how every time you talk, like you want to talk about the negative side of it, of being run down, tired, overwhelmed, whatever, that you have to first say, I'm so thankful for all of my orders. And it's like, well, of course we're fucking thankful. Like
Right.
we're not like, fuck you, quit ordering. If that's
Right.
the case, we'd
Then-
turn off our website. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And
But I
just
liked how she brought up how it's kind of crappy that we have to like, first of all, I want to seem thankful, but I'm really tired because
Right.
I'm overworking myself, or I haven't cooked dinner in how many, whatever. So yeah, that's how I met my friend Lauren. And now like we related on like personal things, and it just kind of like,
Clicked.
snowballs. Yeah, snowballs after that. But
you meet your people. It's
you
great.
do. And I mean,
it's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy how the laser world, like I don't think any of us really prepared for the kind of like friendships and stuff that we and like quote like chosen family that you would have in doing this. It kind of just like starts to happen, and then it like keeps happening, and it's just crazy because then it really kind of takes over because when it's your daily life, these are struggles that really only other laser owners or business owners would understand. Sure, other business owners can relate, but like
to some of it.
Exactly. And it's to some of it.
Right.
But like unless you're really like in all of it, you may not, understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot of it. It's like I have a neighbor and she owns her own practice.
Yeah.
But she like hires people to work for her, and she doesn't really go into the office. And so like I can't talk to her about like what I'm going through because I work for myself and it's really only me.
Right.
And I don't rely on anyone else. So it's like when you don't have a support group that's in the same situations, it's not comparable.
Right.
It's so
well,
hard.
she didn't she can't relate to like when you almost like sanded your finger off, and when you're like having the like paint studio struggles, and like that's again, these are very like niche specific, and some of it would transfer over to like a woodworker. They would understand those like, but then they may not understand the troubles that you have with combining that and the laser stuff. And, it just really having those people in that industry daily is like, you need to find your people, your friends, your business owners that you relate with. Cause it really does help you keep going, cause like on the tough days, they get it. Right. So what were you doing before the laser world? Because I have heard you talk about how you quit the like corporate to come home and work from home for yourself.
So I actually worked for a car dealership for 8 years.
Oh.
I had moved back to Kansas City after a divorce. It was the first place that offered me a job. I was finishing college online, and they were the first place to offer me a job. And I said, all right, I'll try it out. Right. And I did well there. And it wasn't, I liked what I did for a bit of time. It ended up being that I started a business when I met my husband now. We first started off doing like the farmhouse style signs with my silhouette, the white background, walnut frame. We also did like plant stands, and I started noodle boards, and like that's kind of where my business really started.
Yeah.
And then when COVID hit, I was doing all of it and still working at the dealership, but then the dealership laid me off. And I remember coming home and I was like, well, I'm off for 6 weeks. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with my time. We had literally just closed on this house the week before. And so it was just like, how are we going to pay our mortgage? Because I'm not
shit.
Like, and yeah, I get unemployment, but like, it's not
the same. It's not 100%. And it's also temporary.
Yeah.
Right. It's very temporary. So I was like, I'm buying a glow forge. And he just looked at me like I had lost my mind. And
yeah.
He's like, you just got laid off and you want to spend like $6,000. I'm like, yeah, why not? Like,
right.
What's the worst that's going to happen? He was like, you're fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, stove covers are doing well. People are home, they're bored, they're spending money. So like that can kind of finance the glow forge.
Yeah.
And I had only really seen glow forge advertisements.
Same. I didn't know other lasers existed.
their marketing's great.
It really is. It pisses me off.
I do, because it's not, thankfully I didn't have any like serious issues with mine.
Right.
But I bought that Glowforge because I was following Lizzie from the House of Timber, and I had for a couple years at that point, and she, you know, she uses a scroll saw to create her work.
Right.
I tried that. I do not have the patience.
Yeah, I don't. That. Especially those small letters and stuff. I don't
know how they do it, because I just like, no, I want to rush through it, which then like your stuff's not straight or just doesn't look
right.
good.
Yeah.
But I had followed her for a long time, and I tried the scroll saw thing, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to get a laser, and I'm going to create the same stuff with my laser that she creates with her saw.
Mm-hmm.
And quickly realized that the Glowforge was not the tool for that.
Right.
It was just too slow. I never could get it to cut through 1/4 inch MDF ever. Mm-hmm. And so I bought that. That would have been March of 20. And then it was probably in September when somehow I found about Eon. And I reached out and I was like, great, we're going to order this one instead. Like my Glowforge is already paid off. Like it served its purpose.
Yeah.
Let's get one ordered.
So then which is good, because then he also wasn't like as like you're nuts for the next one.
Right. He was prepared.
Right.
He was like, okay, well, I guess this is what we're doing. And he has like a background, and he used to work for a cabinet company programming CNCs and designing cabinet designs for CNCs. So we honestly thought that like that knowledge would transfer over to a laser, and it did not. So it was a little rough starting out.
Right.
I had my Eon probably for about a year. And I was the dumb one that was like, I'm not going to take advantage of the support. I don't need it. I know what I'm doing. No, it didn't. Like, wrong. Glowforge to a industrial, like commercial laser is not the same.
It's very, it's not that it's not possible, because a ton of people do it literally every day, but it's so intimidating. Like the Glowforge is like, it's almost, it's hard to break, but not at the same time, because it kind of breaks sometimes. But like they make it so simple that you literally push start and like it goes, unless there's something wrong, Sure, you can bump the head into something, but it's not as nearly as dramatic as bumping the head on an industrial, what I call the collision and the rite of passage. Everyone who's had their first collision, like, welcome to the laser world. But yeah, it's so when we were waiting for our Eon, while on order, I went viral, and I really needed the Eon, because like I was engraving like hundreds of ornaments and stuff like on my Glowforge, and it was painful. Thankfully, I was smart in that, like the ones that were mostly cut, I listed more of those and listed less of the like more complicated like engrave ones, because I knew there wasn't enough time in the day to create all of those. And I did outsource some to my friends and stuff to like help. But I was waiting for this machine to show up so that I could help with those orders. And then it showed up, and I'm like, like, I'm like, I can't learn something new and then now expect to not like hurt production. And so I didn't even like, it finally showed up, and I couldn't wait for it to show up. And then I didn't touch it for like 2 months until, after the rush of the viral ornaments were done. And then on top of that, I also found out I was pregnant before it showed up. So I was in my first trimester, miserable, tired. It was an awful pregnancy. And so then it was like, oh, now let me go learn this huge machine and not break it when all I want to do is sleep and sit on the couch. So yeah, it was like, I don't know, not that it was a tough transition, but like getting over your head was I think the hardest part in the transition.
Yeah, for sure. Cause like I probably I got that. I don't remember exactly when I got it. It would have been in March of 21. No, COVID was March of 20, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it was a year later, because I ordered it in September. It showed up that next spring. Hobbled by on that thing for like a year.
Right.
I never contacted support because I was too proud. And
right.
I could figure it out myself.
Why do we do that to ourselves? Because you probably did things like I've done things the hard way for way longer than I ever should have, just because I don't want to ask somebody. And then all of a sudden I'll either come across a post that answers my question or makes my life easier, or I finally ask and it's something like super simple.
Easy.
Oh my God. Like
I literally ran that thing on
annoyed at myself, but then I still do it.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, I literally ran, this will kill everyone in this room. I ran it at 90% power to cut 1/8 inch.
No.
Because I like had literally no idea. And then
Right.
when I got to the point of like,
well, and Eon wasn't nearly as popular then.
no.
So there weren't as many people to ask, you
Right.
know? So I get that too.
Yeah. So I was able to like hobble by for the year, and then I went viral.
See, that's what always like.
And I remember it was last March, and I went viral on TikTok, and I needed to be able to cut 1/4 inch, and I could not get my laser figured out to save my life. So I finally like gave up. I called support. David spent hours on the phone with me. I feel so sorry for him because like it was rough. My alignment was obviously very off.
Yeah.
Had been. And so then like because I pretty much like ran it at 90 for so long, my tube was also not performing the way it should.
Right.
My beam we ended up finding out my beam combiner went bad. During all of this, since I had gone viral, I was getting all these orders. I had to outsource cutting the material.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I literally pieced out. I told Brad, I said, I'm having so much anxiety about this. I can't get this laser figured out because, of course, I had to wait for like, you know, the process of figuring out what was actually wrong. And David had to ship me.
And then you have to install the parts when you get them. And
like, I can't do this. I literally was like, it's spring break, right? Or we're going to Alabama. Goodbye. And we packed up the car and we drove to Alabama to go to Gulf Shores.
Nice.
And I said, I'll come back and deal with this in a week.
Yeah.
And thankfully, by the time I got back, I had another call with David and it got worked out. But
so what was the item you went viral for?
My piggy banks.
Nice.
Mark's piggy banks.
Yeah, so that was the connection. So she purchased Mark's piggy bank file and just kind of started making those. And then what did you think you wanted to make when you got your laser, and how does that translate to what you really actually make most of now? Because it's rarely the same thing.
It is very rare. So in this instance, when I bought my laser, I said I need to be able to cut the thicker material to shape my nursery signs the way I want to, the way Lizzie was doing them.
Right.
I needed to at least cut 1/4 inch material. I could cut it twice, glue it together, so I had 1/2 inch.
Right.
When you're shaping, you need that material to be able to give more dimension.
Right.
So that's how that started. That was the end goal.
Mm-hmm.
And what ended up happening was someone reached out to me about a piggy bank that someone else had made her, and she was not happy with it. And I remember being like, man, because I had seen people post about them. I had seen people make them. I'm like, this just seems like something I'm not sure that I really would enjoy doing.
And that was me, because there's so many layers, and I'm like, I would have to charge $1 million for these to make them worth it, because especially those like outline layers, they're not like, you waste the full material, but you don't. And so now you then have to either be creative with using that or sell your scraps, or, the outer sheet.
Yeah, there's just a lot of them.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. Plus, like, she was pretty pissed.
Right.
About how this one had turned out.
So take the responsibility of
Right. Fixing this, and I've never made one before. So like, am I really qualified for this order?
Right.
So I kind of put it off for a little bit. She followed back up, and I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. If I don't like it, I won't list it. I won't make another one. And that's not what happened.
Right.
And I was like loving it. And I did mine a little bit.
Wait for the cough. Did the one that you make for her, is that the one that went viral?
No.
Okay.
So what ended up happening was I made hers, posted it on like my personal Facebook. I ended up listing it on Etsy and on my website just to see what would happen.
Yeah.
And then they started coming in. So I was like, I made a TikTok, and it's literally just me holding the piggy banks and like swapping them out.
Right. It's
And
always the simple ones.
it's always the dumbest things. Like,
Yeah.
we're simple people, apparently.
Well, how I went viral was TikTok, but it wasn't even my TikTok. It was someone who went to a craft show where I was literally trying to sell off everything. I didn't want him to bring anything home. I'm like, if it towards, the last few hours, I'm like, discount everything. I literally want them. I like, don't come back with anything if you can help it. And so I had a lot of inappropriate ones. And so she bought all of the inappropriate ones. And that's also what I related to you on was that bookmark. Don't let me forget to talk about that. That one was great. And so she made a TikTok in her car of after the craft show because she was so excited about all of the ornaments and was literally just talking about like all of the different ornaments
like
she
an
bought.
unboxing.
Yeah, like basically, yeah, like an unboxing in her car. And then it went nuts. Like it was, I think it's probably up to about 1 million, now. But yeah, and it was like, where did you get that? Where did you get that? And I didn't even have a website when that happened. And I had started my website, but I was going super slow. Like it had already been a couple months.
Well, and you were a little hesitant to go
and
live.
And I just didn't, I didn't have the push. I didn't have the like need for it, like, right then. And then I was like, and then, I was like, oh, I'll just take orders by like, PM or DM in Instagram. That quickly was not possible. And then, I couldn't sleep that night because I was just panicking about all the messages I was getting and all of the like ways, like all of the orders that I was going to miss because of having to go back and forth with them. And so I woke up at like 3 or 4 a.m. because I couldn't sleep. And I spent 10 hours and I got my website like ready to go and up and running. And like he woke up in the morning and I was in my office. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just setting up my website because I'm panicking and I couldn't sleep and I needed to figure it out. But thank God I did because it's the reason I like have one now. I may have never gotten around to it because I could have always procrastinated. But
it's a lot of work. It's a pain.
It is. Yeah. Well, it's just I'm a perfectionist and I don't know how I want it to look. And I also don't know what I'm doing. And so then you have to like test it. And then you're like, how does that look? And you're like, oh, no. And then like, you don't know the terminology. So then you're like, oh, is this what I'm trying to do? And you're like, nope, that didn't work. And then so you try something else and like, does this sound like what I need? And yeah, it's a whole thing.
It is definitely a headache.
And the bookmark, what does that bookmark say?
I don't watch porn. I read it like a fucking lady. And it went viral on TikTok. It's just funny to me that like I primarily sell kid-related items, and then I post that and it like just pops off. I was not.
So
and I think the best part about that bookmark is because of the piggy banks. Like I buy the Glowforge size sheets, just because it's easier to manage, and I don't.
Me too. Yeah.
Huge stacks, but there's still a decent amount of space that's left over when you cut the acrylic fronts for those. So I was trying to figure out things that I could make out of acrylic.
Right.
That I could sell for cheap as like basically a loss leader if I wanted to.
Right.
And not have to worry, about anything.
Yeah.
And so like I was cutting these bookmarks out of the scrap from the piggy banks.
Right.
And the amount of people like talk book talk and you're going to go viral. Like,
yeah,
it is amazing the amount of people that ordered them.
Yeah.
And that the waves that they came into, because it would start to slow down. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like
I can breathe a little bit.
I have some breathing room. And then the next thing you know, it would go back up again.
Yeah.
But, yep. Those are definitely very popular.
Yeah. Well, and what did you say? Your mom wasn't so happy about that?
Oh my God. Yeah. My mom was like the mom that raised you like, you're a princess, you're a lady, you're gonna act like one. And the ironic part of it is like that's nowhere near.
You don't watch porn, you read it like a lady. So like
I keep that to myself.
Right?
But like
mom.
We keep it classy.
Right.
Classy. And I'm like, you know what? And the thing about it is like obviously like I'm 34.
Right.
It's been a long time coming. I have never been appropriate. I have never had a filter. Like, I don't know what you expected, but this should not be surprising.
The funny part is my mom, I apologize for my inappropriateness all the time, but I learned a lot of my inappropriateness from my mom, which I didn't even realize for a long time. But she's really good at not doing it in public or in front of like people who might judge her.
Yep.
So, I mean, I can remember a time where me and my sister were walking into a mall in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how we got on the subject. Maybe I had like a sucker or something like that. But like big suckers, as you call lollipops, they hurt my mouth because I have a small mouth. And my mom made some kind of inappropriate comments about like something like, how are you going to have a boyfriend or something like that. And I was
something
like,
sexual.
Mom! And she has a really conservative husband, and she loves make him squirm. She loves to say like inappropriate things and make him uncomfortable.
My favorite moment, my favorite time that I go back to, like when we're hanging out with your mom, is when we played Never Have I Ever.
Oh my God. Don't ever do that with your parents. It was a terrible, terrible
No,
decision.
it wasn't. It was amazing. I learned so much about their relationship. And to see him, he goes, Deborah.
See, Ryder's totally doomed.
At one point, like she says, I don't even remember what I just remember it. He's like, Deborah. And I'm like, man. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Ryder's doomed here because I don't have a filter, and like, I mean, I made those bookmarks, and Ryder's like, are you really making and selling these? And then before that, I did a charcuterie penis cutting board, and those like I sold for a little bit, and so I'd cut them, I'd bring them upstairs and oil them and let them dry, and I would have penises like lined up against my back wall.
My house
sounds like our house right now.
And Ryder just is like, what am I doing here? Like, what is this? Because Dad is the
my case. They're too young to understand yet. JR's getting there, but to JR, it's a dog bone. So
you got half of it, right?
Yeah. So, well, and then there was a moment that Will Crazy Laser Dad loves to bring up, because partially what I went viral for was it was a penis ornament and it had a Christmas hat on the tip.
I remember this.
Yeah. And so I was making 1 million of them, and I was like demasking them on the couch. And again, at this time he was like 3. So even younger, and like I really could get away with it. And he picked one up and he was like, oh, is this? He's like, oh, it's a dog bone. And he's like, oh, and he like fake it. And it was like a parent fail, but like a parent proud moment at the same time.
Yeah.
Hilarious. But yeah, so my kids don't know how inappropriate mom is yet, but they'll find out soon.
Yeah, Ryder's definitely.
How old is
he? He's 12, almost 13. So it's like, it's kind of this borderline, but like sex is such a like off topic that we weren't allowed to have at home. And so for me, I think it's been always like, I'm just going to be pretty transparent with you. Because I don't want you to go through the same things that I did.
Hey,
here.
Hi.
So it's been interesting, to say the least.
And where were we going with that before we started talking about inappropriate stuff?
I don't know. We're talking about
going viral, I think. We're talking.
Yeah.
Oh, piggy banks.
Always about penises. The pains.
So with the piggy banks, so how did that so you went viral with the piggy banks, and then is that like kind of how it became your thing? Then you just started like, oh, okay, how can I kind of expand, beyond like Mark's file? Right.
So that is pretty much like what happened. So, nursery signs were always my end goal. And that they're a process, especially when you do them and you shape them and all of the other things. But what I had realized was that, I'd get people that would inquire about them, and, you have to charge the amount of time that it takes, because on average, they're at least every bit of 5 to even 25 hours worth of work.
Oh, and my friend Jasmine, she made some intense, the homestay.
Yes.
Yeah, so she made some intense ones. And she would tell us her process, or she'd keep us posted on a sign that she was working on. And it would be months and months. And so it's a lot. And told her every single time she never ever charged enough. She did not charge what she should have been charging as far as like time and her skill alone, not even including
that's a lot of it.
Yeah. So yeah, and I mean, like it was never I never wanted to make those because I don't have the patience for like, because she would put 40 to 80 hours into those things at easy, super easy.
Yeah, they're very intricate. It's a lot of steps. But what I had realized is like I wanted something that felt still personal and still had that like 3D shaped feel, but then also was usable, I guess, like had a dual purpose.
Right. Yeah.
And so last year I remember messaging with my friend Hannah with Woodlane Design. She creates a lot of my files now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have this wild idea, and tell me if I'm crazy or stupid, like whatever. But like, what if I made piggy banks that were like aesthetically pleasing, could be used for adults, could, still have like a dual purpose, but charge what I need to for it? What if I could sell, if somebody inquired about it, like a nursery sign, and a lot of it is, you don't know what you don't know. So when you quote one of those things, a lot of people are like, holy shit, no.
Well, and they don't understand what all
the amount of time that it takes like going into that. And so I was like, what if I could offer something that was still along the lines of nursery, kids related, that was still personable, but at a lower price point. Like I felt like a piggy bank would be probably like the best thing.
Right.
And I looked and just to see like what was out there, and like there are cute piggy bank files, but not the way I wanted to make them.
Right.
And so I was like,
it's a perfect example. So my son, he wanted a piggy bank, but he loves like police right now. Mm-hmm. And so I was looking, and like, of course I always go to Amazon first, and I'm looking on Amazon to see what there is. And there's like a couple things. And like, we ended up finding like one that kind of like looks like a SWAT car, but like there was always the like, they're coming from China. And so a lot of times if they have like sounds or whatever, the sounds are a little like weird or questionable or not something that we understand, or,
not
so
relatable.
That I was running into, or they just weren't great quality. And it's like, man, I was surprised that there wasn't that. I just figured like a lot of kids love police. Like there's police beds, there's like, there's police everything. But when I was trying to decorate his room, there was not a lot to choose from. Right. And as makers and creators, we're like, oh, if it doesn't exist or I can't find it, I'll just make it. And so I do want to make him like a crazy police piggy bank one, but like it shows you that like that because I can't find it and I want something specific like that there's likely that there's a lot of people who are the same. I mean, the one that you just did that was like the bee.
Oh, the honeycomb.
And the honeycomb. Yeah. Yeah.
People love that one, which is, I mean, it's cute. It is very cute, but it surprises me because it's like,
when
I would search for. Right. You never know what someone wants. Like I've made a monstera leaf one that was like just plant related, and just trying to like find things that, because like
that's really another good industry with the books. So books is a good industry. The like plant industry, they some crazy plant people.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of them,
and they'll spend a lot of money on like plants stuff.
The reporter I used to work with in Colorado, he got like a plant for his, or a couple plants for his new place.
Yeah.
And now he lives in a jungle. Like
during COVID,
literally lives in a jungle. Like the plants have taken over. He has
an apartment, right?
Yeah, and he decided to like get rid of his TV. He's got minimal furniture. Yeah. He got rid
of things in his place to make room for plants.
Yeah, and he rotates his plants depending on year for sunlight, and like he is really into. And it looks like the male version of like Poison Ivy from Batman, because he lives in a jungle.
Yeah, he does.
But it's awesome too to see it.
Well, and then he like documents it all, doesn't he?
He like, time lapse his like he cleans the leaves. He changes the like he time. It's crazy.
I saw someone on my Instagram that I follow the other day. She was like watering all of her plants. So she's not like a plant person. She's like a workout person, I think, actually. But she's like watering all of her plants, and then she had these like gloves on, and she was like wiping down the leaves of like her big, and I'm like, I can barely keep myself and my kids alive.
Right.
There's no way I can give that much nurturing to another living thing.
Oh my gosh,
We
no.
killed succulents.
Yeah.
Even succulents I can't keep alive. Like
You can't either.
I had this bird of paradise that I bought like I think 2 summers ago. I mean, it's rough. Like it's not doing the greatest, but somehow it's still alive. I'm not really sure how because it's watered like every 2 months. So
right.
When during COVID, I like bought a ton of plants and like I had like these shelves in my kitchen lined with them. They're all dead. It's just no.
Yeah. So you made the Monstera ones. What's a couple other like cool, unique ones that you've made?
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think.
So the dog one.
The dog one was probably really cool. One of my favorites. It was a fellow maker's brother who reached out to me. I guess she like sent it my way and he was like, I want to make a custom piggy bank for my nephew, but I want it to be their dogs. And I've never been one to want to do pet portraits because like pets are like one of those things that if you don't do it right, like they're not going to be happy.
Just like a normal portrait, you mess up like one tiny little like shading feature or line or something and you completely ruin the face. Yeah.
Right. And pet people are they're like kids, you know? You just don't mess with them. And so it was like, oh God, because I have no interest in doing like the detail painting that some people do and hand painting. Like if I can't spray paint it, I'm not interested. I don't like it. But thankfully, like their dogs were pretty simple and it turned out really cool.
It did. It was super cute.
I had a couple people reach out on that one. I still have like one more left of like my woodland collection that I've started, of course, like with COVID.
All the little animals,
all the little animals, because that was my goal. Was like I wanted to offer release a collection of them at a time.
Yeah,
and kind of just build up what I offer because I feel like they don't sell every day for me. Like that's not my letter banks, absolutely.
Yeah,
but I feel like the more I grow it and the more like that I push it out there and have more to offer, I feel like they'll just build from there.
Well, and then that's also like having the different price points for everyone, for each different buyer is huge too. And like, okay, yeah, you have the ones where you can charge several $100s for, and your nursery signs, which can be up to like 1,000 or more, depending on like how intricate and the size and stuff. And then you have like the cheaper end stuff, and then like your bookmarks and the stuff that you're using with the scraps. Having all of those, you're able to get a wider range of people depending on what they're looking for and what their budget is.
Right. And that's always that's something I've been kind of focusing on a little bit more right now that I'm a little bit slower is like smaller end items.
Right.
Because I feel like a majority of the stuff that I offer is higher end.
Right.
And while that's awesome because I would obviously like to do less work for more money.
Right.
Not reality right now. So
especially because things are so up in the air. It's like some weeks my website is literally killing it. And then the next week my website is literal crickets. And so you have to like find those different things so that hopefully when something is ebbing, the other thing is flowing. And they can't. And bookmarks. It's easier for someone to buy as a gift if things are rough. A funny bookmark as opposed to a custom piggy bank.
Personalized piece. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's been crazy because even like the last couple weeks, I've had so much anxiety. Because it was like I was going 1,000 miles an hour at Christmas.
Right.
And then it just died.
That's the hardest part about the new year anyway, not even like this new year, because this year is just a mess. But in general, it's always slow after Christmas because people just spent a fuck ton of money. They don't have any left. There's not a whole lot of like crazy holidays. And if you have a birthday in January and February, you're kind of like screwed.
Yeah.
So it's always been slower for the most part, except that first January, February after COVID. that was not slower, and I was not prepared for how busy that was. Like that, because like, you know, we all kind of look forward to that slowdown a little bit. Our anxiety doesn't, but like our body does, because Christmas is always a lot.
And I'm ready for it to pick up now.
Yeah, same. But like, so, you know, when January and February is a little slow, it's kind of nice because you're like, oh, I get to breathe for a second. And then you breathe and your anxiety is like, you're not selling anything.
You're right. You got bills to pay.
Yeah.
All right, I caught my breath now.
Yeah.
Ready.
And that's, I think, the biggest thing, because I remember this time last year, so like I just quit. Stove covers were like at my peak. I mean, I sold so many stove covers. And I remember cutting off my Christmas orders, and they continue to come in. I was still shipping stove covers that were ordered in December and February.
Wow.
Because people just were buying them, and it was great. But it was also like, I thought I was going to have a break and like have some time to recoup. And that was, and then you compare it to this year, and it's just like, I'm twiddling my thumbs, like,
right.
And of course, like, I'm not someone that does well sitting still,
right?
And I don't know how to relax. Like, I'm always working. I'm always trying to think of something new or work on my listings, and it's just like, I'm gonna lose my shit.
Yeah.
And then of course I got COVID, and I'm even down more because that was a week out.
Yeah.
And that was recovery. But now it's starting to pick back up a little bit, that I've noticed, which is good.
Yeah.
But man, just like having all of it at once, like it's a lot to take on.
Yeah.
So if someone is like interested in the piggy banks, but was kind of like you and I in the beginning, where they didn't really want to get into it, one, because I mean, it can be a lot of work and it can be a lot of materials. How do you make it beneficial for you and your business?
Charging what you need to charge. I give away material. I throw away material. Because I just do so many piggy banks that it is not worth having that much material in my life.
Right.
We bought a bunk of MDF last Christmas because our supplier that we normally would get it from wasn't getting sheets in off stuff. So I had to go to their source.
Right.
And it was like, it was just easier to buy the bunk. You know, find the small things that you can make out of them. I don't do this with Mark's piggy banks, but I've seen that other people do.
Yeah.
I do them with my animal ones, but I will actually split the inner pieces in half.
Right.
Closer together.
Kind of like layered or like, like
use a nesting program or whatever.
Right.
Because like, especially like the animal ones, like since I'm not using an acrylic and there's no negative space in it, they're big. So I will, combine those down. Obviously, like on the acrylic, look for simple things like, pocket tokens, bookmarks. Yeah. And honestly, I know a lot of people say like 1/8 inch is too thick for a bookmark. I very rarely have someone complain about the thickness of it. Yeah. And those are great because they're super easy to do. And they don't take much.
Well, and they're just like funny gifts. Like, I mean, as much as it sounds, they may not actually use it as a bookmark, but for it to be like it's book related and it has like a funny or nice motivating saying, and it's almost kind of like book decor. Like maybe you put it on their bookshelf, or maybe they don't actually use it because it is a little thick, but it still does. That doesn't mean that they don't sell, and they sell really well.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, because I see it all the time, is like what people are pricing these at.
So do you mind sharing what you price yours at?
So I have two different pricing. So I sell mine higher on Etsy because I do have an Etsy store, but I also have my website. Right. It's linked on my website just because I want to keep more of my money. I'd rather you shop there. On Etsy, mine are $67. And that's not with free shipping. I charge additional for shipping.
Good. Yeah.
So my biggest thing on those is price what you deserve, because it is a lot of work. It is a lot of time.
Yeah. A lot of material.
Yeah. A lot of material. And like you're ordering, especially like acrylic, you've got to order that in most of the time. Mm-hmm. It's just, I see people charging like $40, $35. And I'm like, there's no way. I would never have someone reach out to me like, will you do it for this? Absolutely not.
Yeah. Hard pass.
Hard pass. It's going to be a hell no. It's not worth it.
Right.
But I think something that I do different that a lot of people don't do, and I think this is more of a preference, is when I make my banks, my sides are all painted. Where most people are pre-painting their material, cutting it, and then assembling it so you have that laser edge.
Yeah.
And I don't care for that. So, honestly, me spray
Just makes it look a little bit more finished.
Yeah, finished. It looks cleaner. So, if you are thinking about doing it, honestly, like spray painting, it doesn't really take that much time.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more of a learning curve because you have to, if you're not
thing, because that's what I always struggled with painting was, we had our garage, but we had like a lot of shit in our garage, and we didn't have like a lot of space for a paint like station or
Well,
and
clearly we did, but
we did turn it into a studio. True.
Priorities.
But then, and I could do it outside too, but like we're in Florida and it's hot as fuck. And I didn't want to be like in the sun spray painting it. And it's also humid. So if it's super humid that day, that can affect your paint. And there's just so many, like, I don't have the patience for painting at all. Like if I ever did piggy banks, it would have to be 100% acrylic, which would also make them really heavy. But I mean, MDF is kind of heavy too. And expensive. But like the sanding before, and then if you do the primer and then like the spray painting, and then sometimes you have to sand in between coats, and I don't have it in me. It's not for me.
It is definitely not for everybody.
Yeah.
It just gives me an excuse to buy more spray paint and have all the colors.
Another thing to purchase and hoard. Yeah. So what do you have any advice that you would give to a new or struggling laser owner? Like what would you tell you when you struggled through Eon for a year unnecessarily?
Right? Like, because their support's amazing.
Yeah.
Definitely ask questions, get help. I think the most overwhelming thing going from a Glowforge to a commercial laser is the mirror alignment. It is a bitch.
It sucks.
I still struggle with it, and
if mine ever goes out of alignment, I want to jump off a cliff.
I will hire someone to come do it because it's like I don't have the mental capacity.
Heather and I joke that like if it goes out of alignment, we're like ready to sell the machine. That's how much we hate it, is because, and he doesn't care. He's my aligner. He's my, if something's broken, if tech support needs me to like replace something. Although I did replace my autofocus pin and squared my laser head after my collision, my own, which I was pretty proud of myself, and it really wasn't as hard as I told myself. But it's only because I had to, because he was at work when customer service was available. Otherwise, I 100% would have made him do it, and I just would have supervised. But mirror alignment sucks.
They do, and so I have 2 lasers now. And Brad and I joke the Mira is mine. And then we have the OM Tech, and that's Brad's. I don't touch that thing. That thing's scary. Like, I'll run it. But as far as like alignment, cleaning the lens on their like stock head is huge pain. I finally just ordered the lens kit from American Photronics the other day because it's a hassle. But I'm like, that's yours. I'm not responsible for this. I'll support, but you're on your own.
Yeah.
No, thank you. But definitely like ask for help when you need it. Don't be like me and run it at 90 for a year and only cut 1/8 inch out of a laser that should be cutting at least quarter.
Right.
Also, I think like don't give up. I think a lot of people get lasers kind of in the same sense that they get crickets and silhouettes. It's I can do all of the things, and we talked about this the other day. Like, I have so much stock blank downstairs that I was like, I'm going to engrave cutting boards and coasters because I saw someone was selling to realtors and how well that was working from them. But like, find a niche. And I know people say don't niche down, but niche down.
Yes.
Because I know that I can put a better quality item out versus just trying to do a bunch of engraved things that are simple, grab and go.
Right.
I don't enjoy it as much.
Well, you can have more of production. You can be more productive in shorter amount of time because you're not like going from a piggy bank to coasters to, like you're not all over the place.
Bouncing all over the place. And I think that that's helped me so much because like I am a creative, which is weird because I never was like in art class. I can't
Yeah.
draw to save my life. Like I
Right.
never crafted.
Yeah.
And so now I found the thing that I really love doing.
Yeah.
And if I'm doing stuff that I don't enjoy, it literally kills like my creativity, my motivation.
I don't want to do it. Yeah.
No, I don't. And the one thing that I have found that really works well for me is I will always try once a week to do something new that I want to do.
That's smart.
That like kind of boosts my creativity, makes me feel like this is a me project.
Yeah.
And that way I'm not doing the mundane thing every single day.
Right.
Because it does wear you down too. Even
Yeah.
if you enjoy it, like the piggy
Something
banks.
I preach, but I don't practice very well.
Yeah.
Is the taking time to make something you want to make, especially if you have a lot of orders that aren't like of your choosing, to
Yes.
make something you want to make. Because it's hard because I haven't necessarily, as far as the physical products, I haven't found like my people necessarily. So the stuff I want to make is like the super intricate like milestones. But then the hard part is like, I only want to make those once. I don't want to make them again because I make them complicated and intricate. And like, I think the sushi milestone or the crawfish milestone, like, and I mean, even the pizza one, it was like 8 or 9 different acrylics that like need them in. So, and those are, again, like, it's an expensive file. It's expensive for people to sell if they buy my file. Like, and the good thing is that at least the few people that have reached out to me who wanted like a milestone, they know that like that can't be cheap. For the most part, they usually understand that. And they're like, how much is that? And I'm like, oh, that starts at $150, you know? So, but that's my problem, is that a lot of the things that I really like to make, it's like, it's a hard market to find. So that has to be something that I like kind of do on my own time, as like, get it out of my system and then get back to the things that are going to sell well.
Yes.
But
that's what I love. I now have like a storefront in a painted tree. That's super. And like, so every piggy bank that I have made that I have not offered at a discount or like was an order is literally sitting in that booth.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this is my storage unit now. And also like,
well, it showcases what you can do. Yeah.
Right, which is the best part. Cause it's like, I mean, I've been there a month now and I've only sold one bank.
Yeah.
That was a couple days ago. So it's like, it's a very like specific person that's looking for that.
Right.
But at least it shows what I can do. It puts my name out here locally, and it gets me to the point where it's like, okay, cool. I made something cool, new, list it on Etsy, post, or, you know, shove it in there.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah, for sure. Do we have anything else? Do you have any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Well, how do people find you?
So I'm biggest on Instagram. I post there all the time. Also Facebook, TikTok. Don't do Twitter. My website and Etsy.
Okay. And what's your handle on Instagram?
Barley and Oak Co.
Is it the same everywhere, or?
I think
I think so.
So search Barley and Oak or Barley and Oak Co.
Yeah, search.
Yeah, it's everywhere. I think except for Facebook. For some reason, I think that's the only one.
Yeah,
that doesn't have the co at the end.
Cool.
Well,
thank you, friend,
for spending some time.
Thanks for being one of my my laser people.
No, thank you for being one of mine. I love it.
Ditto.
And stay tuned for our life update. We'll be right back.
Cool.
And we're back. That was a good episode.
Yeah,
that was a fun
she's
interview.
fun.
Yeah.
I was nervous a little bit because she was nervous.
Right. Yeah.
So you never know like how that's gonna come out. Like, is she gonna still be her, or is she gonna be like, you know, kind of just in her head or whatever? But yeah,
and like I was saying after we wrapped up with it, I think that's gonna be like a thing moving forward.
What?
Because as we grow, people are gonna be like, "Ooh, but it's you know, it's the podcast."
Yeah.
When to us, it's not.
Right. It's just a normal conversation. Yeah, and we've been doing it for almost 2 years now. Is it 2 years?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. So now, I mean, obviously, we're more comfortable.
Right.
Because
yeah,
it's been a long time.
Yeah. So
we're 102.
Yeah. 102.
That's
it's crazy. Yeah. So at the time this is gonna come out, it's gonna be a week after this already happened. But as many of you know, I work news, and depending on where you are, maybe you heard, maybe you haven't, but in Orlando, for us now, it's 2 days ago By the time this comes out, it'll be a week and 2 days.
Right.
There was a shooting involving a media field crew. And the reporter passed away, and the photographer survived. He initially was in critical,
right?
But he gave an interview yesterday, and he looked like he's talking normal. He's in a hospital bed,
right?
But he's doing well. And mother and a 9-year-old. 9-year-old was killed as well, and then the mother was also critically injured.
Right.
So that's another reason.
Yeah.
They weren't doing anything.
They're just reporting on a story.
There was a shooting earlier that day by this individual.
He was still
at large.
Yep.
The scene had cleared. Police had left. They were getting ready for their 5 p.m. newscast like we normally do. The photographer was setting up his camera and everything to go live when the guy walked up and started opening fire on him first. And then he shot into the car with his reporter. Who shot and killed the reporter and then went off. And this is something that we know is possible.
I don't.
And when I say we, I don't mean us.
Right.
I mean us out in the field.
Right.
And it's one of our biggest kind of gripes with the job is that we, even in a situation like that where the suspect has not been apprehended,
right,
police are gone, we're still there at the scene to report on what happened earlier.
Right.
And this is always something that could happen where they come back after the police left to kind of see what's going on.
Right.
And this individual saw, and he was only 19.
Right.
He saw this, this TV crew. And at this point is no longer whether he knew or not because he was setting up his camera.
Right.
So he knew it was a TV crew. Probably, who knows? Didn't want.
Right.
Who knows if he saw them interview that other lady.
Right.
Or whatever, but so it's definitely on the mind and more.
I mean,
motivation.
It's always on my mind. I mean, you guys are in, a lot of times if you're reporting on a shooting, it's not in the best neighborhood. It's,
right.
You work night shifts, so you're there. You're literally on 11 o'clock news, so you're at 11 o'clock in not the greatest neighborhood, and it's definitely something I always worried about. And then there was also, where was that other one where that was like a ex-employee or
that was in Virginia back in I want to say 2014, 15.
Was it?
Yeah, because we were in Colorado and I was in the studio. I was still in the studio, so like 13 or 14.
But yeah, so it's just, unfortunately, it's not the first time that something like this has happened. And so, it's just a fear, you've accidentally run up on to a crime scene yourself, and that involved a shooting, and you didn't even know that what you were running up on. Because the police weren't even there yet.
Right. And a few weeks ago, we were following some cyclists for this thing.
And you guys ended up needing to leave.
It seemed like a fight was breaking out. We left, and then we heard after the fact that someone could have possibly been going for a gun.
Right.
And that definitely everyone at the station, because I brought up it was the whole thing about our safety and everything like that, and I brought it up. So everyone, when this happened, was like, man, we were thinking of you just a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
It could have been here instead of there. Like it's not, people don't, you watch the news and
you don't realize what's going on.
You're like, oh, wow, that's crazy. But you don't realize, that the people bringing you the news are like, we're there.
Right.
So whether police are there, most of the time I try. My rule is if police aren't there, we're not going to be there.
Right.
Especially like you said, 11 o'clock.
Right.
If it's not an active scene.
Yeah.
I try to push to go to the police station or just somewhere where it's not, especially if there's someone that's like still out.
Right. Because
you never know where they're going to go. And if they live there, chances are they're going to come back at some time.
Yeah.
So it was just, it's definitely put it into perspective more so, trying to get media off the ground and,
not as if we needed more of a push, but it was more of a push.
But it was more of a push. Yeah. So just wanted to get that out there.
And then, so also in our world, I am still sick. I have my good days and I have my bad days. We are on round 2 with Pink Eye with Jackson. Yeah. Giving
this one a little less.
Yeah, but it's
still there.
It's still there. So he was on drops for 7 weeks. 7 weeks. Feels like it. 7 days. And giving drops to a 19-month-old is super fun.
It's super easy. You just boop.
Yeah. Squirmy AF. So we finished the drops, and then 2 days later there was like the little crusties again. So here we are, round 2. And then also late, I think it was Tuesday night, I got a phone call from my stepmom, and my dad was in the hospital. And that was rough because so my dad has had Parkinson's for 20 years, just under 20 years, because he was diagnosed when I was 20 and I'm not 40 yet. So yeah, so it wasn't looking so great. He was really, really weak. He said his legs were rubbery. His voice was weak. So it wasn't looking the greatest that first day. And I, my brain went to the worst. And he's in Colorado, we're in Florida.
Right.
And so, you are left to a lot of your thoughts, because you're not there to see it for yourself.
Right.
You're waiting on the updates, and the updates are few and far between, even if you're there. And then if you're not there, it's like, is she telling me right away?
Right. Well,
did she leave anything out?
She's dealing with it.
She's there.
You don't want to call him because you want to let him rest.
Yeah. And I don't want to bug her because, it's also stressful for her.
Right.
But then you want answers, and it's just, it's rough. So, things are looking a lot better. He has, yesterday he moved into a rehab hospital. He'll hopefully be there just for a couple days to a week, maybe. So just, throw some positive vibes out there for literally all of us. And hope that he gets to go home soon and be good and have lots more time with us and the boys and all of that. And then those are two very heavy things.
Yes.
So on a little bit lighter note, but also a little bit kind of heavy is that there's I've seen a lot of the people that I follow on Instagram and Facebook and in the Facebook groups and stuff freaking out about, if they're having a little slow time right now.
Right.
As we just talked about with Lauren on the podcast, it's kind of typical for quarter one to be slower, to be, on that, it's definitely not going to be equivalent to Christmas.
Right.
And so it's hard, to deal with that. Some of it we welcome a little bit of the break, but then we also freak out if the break is a little bit too long or longer than we want it to be. And, with you and I hoping to go in that route of where we're both self-employed soon, it's scary if my website doesn't do well that week, or if I don't sell a ton of files, or
and I mean, we alluded to behind the scenes things going on, and it's possibly hindering some of that as well, but I mean, it's we know about it. We talk about every year. We talk about how January, February is slow. And we're reaching the end of it, and hopefully people start getting their tax returns. And
when you
start
just gotta,
some money.
True. You can We're all waiting for the tax return money to show up.
Maybe another stimulus pack. We need another COVID stimulus pack.
Right?
That's what we need.
Man, that was great. I got a lot of stimulus money from people buying stuff. But I mean, now's the time where you do the stuff, the back end stuff that you didn't have time to do when you're busy, and the stash stuff that you're not going to use.
Right.
And get rid of the scraps that you haven't gotten around to. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm focusing on now is decluttering as much as I can. Getting rid of stuff that I'm not gonna use. Sure, I'm not even gonna break even. I'm not even gonna sell this stuff for what I paid for it.
Right.
But just the other day, I gave a local girl, she came by and grabbed a whole bunch of tumblers that I wasn't offering anymore, the style. And some other kinds of blanks because she was just starting.
Okay. Yeah.
And so it was perfect for her because she got a lot of stuff for cheap. And I probably gave her, it was probably 300 plus, if not more, dollars in inventory. And she gave me 80. But 80 is more than the $0 I was
with it just sitting there.
With them sitting there on my shelf taking space.
Right.
So, getting something for it rather than nothing that it's sitting on the shelf.
And it's also kind of it's kind of like a donation,
right?
To someone who's just starting off.
It was perfect, and that's a perfect way when you're just starting off to figure out what you actually like doing. Get them cheap. Get someone's destashed. Now, what I did tell her, even though she was at my house getting destashed stuff, don't buy someone's full inventory
Right.
of like 200-300
Right.
of something when you don't know if you like it or not. Because then now you're like, we're literally just passing our
it along.
stash
Right.
to, you know, for
Well,
it not to be used at their
hopefully
house.
it gets less and less and less as it goes on to other people.
True, and then it eventually just goes
then it
away.
just disappears. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but look at those destashed pages. One of them is Laser Me This that Heather and I run. And, you know, grab you a couple of something, try it out, see if it sells, see how it goes, and then see if you like it. And then if you don't like it, you have 4 of them rather than 50.
Well, and also if you found your niche and you found what you like doing, what's selling good for you, you know, also destash and look for places like this, like that to offer to other people, and set yourself up for when the rush comes back. You have space for either new inventory or just to more easily work. So
yeah. So that's
so
I think all our life
keep
updates.
the idle, you know, during this idle time, keep busy and in setting yourself up for when the customers comes back, because they always come back.
They're gonna come back.
Yeah. They got to. We got the stuff they need.
Right.
Well, thanks for joining us for another hour plus on the Riley Black Project with Crystal and John.
Bye.
Maybe we're all done.